Okay. Good evening, everyone. So tonight, the free webinar for this month is it's actually based on a conversation that I had recently. I did an event here in Florida, and I did it with a small group of people, and we separated out part of the capacity ecosystem to this one area of focus. And I really go micro into this tonight, where I go into mindset, which is specifically a part of focus. So I'll talk about that, and I'll talk a little bit about the capacity ecosystem for background. I know some of you might already kind of know the concepts, but I'll go through those. The first thing that we're going to do is I always encourage people to pass along the information that comes in these webinars. So whether that's taking your phone out, taking a picture of a slide, obviously when I'm in person, that's a little different. We take pictures of the presentation, but if you feel compelled that you hear something today that you think is worthy. I love when someone posts it on social media with these hashtags because I believe in the ripple effect connection. So I believe you hear something and it makes an impact, and then you pass it to the next person. And that's kind of what the ripple effect is. And then we hashtag the capacity ecosystem, which is my framework that you'll hear a little bit about today. And then the goal when you go into these webinars or into one of my speeches is always just one takeaway. So if you can just take one thing from each of these, you don't have to do everything. It's always just one thing, and one thing can make a big difference. So I put this slide up. These are my teammates.
Wow.
This was after I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis in 2017. And I say a lot in my speeches that it's one of the best things to ever happen to me. And it's not that I'm saying a disease is a good thing. I'm not trying to say that at all. But were it not for that diagnosis, I wouldn't have taken the look that I did at what was going on in my own life. And I wouldn't have taken a look at the patterns that I had. My college basketball coach used to say she never had to yell at me because I did it for her. Now, that's not necessarily a compliment. So I was a type A perfectionist, as an athlete, pushing through pain, fatigue, pressure, all that kind of comes naturally into your life. And I carried some of that drive into the world of sports media, where we're deadline driven, we're talking about weird hours, we're talking about long hours. And then all of a sudden, my life started writing checks my body couldn't cash. So that's when the diagnosis hit. I thought it came overnight, but now I know that there's no way that happened overnight, because now that I know what I know about autoimmune and what happens when we don't have the capacity to perform because our system isn't able to meet the demands, well, that this is what happens over time. And but so it's definitely didn't happen overnight. And I can trace habits back to my childhood that I remember having that I was like, wow, that wasn't good. So you always just try to bring these up earlier in people's lives. And so kind of try to avoid people from getting to the autoimmune point now for sure. But now I'm healthier, now I'm more positive. I wouldn't be here talking to you today delivering what I know about what happens when life's demands, exceeds what your current system can hold. So you see this on the screen, the pictures of my teammates, and that was taken not long after I was diagnosed, and they showed up for me in one of the most beautiful ways, like they always do. I mean, these t-shirts, it might be hard to see on your screen, but the t-shirts were made for me, and they have the MS kind of ribbon on
Mhm.
where the Warriors are in, that's our school mascot. And on the back of the shirts, there were three words written that hashtag we got this. And those three words were the three words that my husband said to me after I shared my diagnosis with him. And those three words are exactly the three words that I hope everyone carries after they hear one of my speeches, one of my workshops. I want you to be able to say that. So it doesn't seem so daunting that there is a way forward. There is another way to do things. So that's the message I want there to be after this is over with. And those are, sorry, hang on, slide issues. Stand by. I love tech issues. They're my favorite. We'll try it one more time. There's too many screens going on for Christy's tech capabilities. So, about me and about my tech capabilities. Health and performance coach and strategist, level 3 integrative health practitioner, John Gordon certified speaker and trainer, which will probably make a little more sense when I get deeper into this. The podcast host of the Ripple Effect Connection, I'm also a 30-year sports media veteran from ESPN, Golf Channel, Sirius XM PGA Tour Radio. Also coached with Dr. Will Cole in the autoimmune health reset. So I've worked with a lot of autoimmune clients also. And I'm also the creator of the capacity ecosystem, which is a performance framework that helps you build the internal foundation you need to thrive in the life that you're already living. So there's three pillars in this capacity ecosystem: focus, energy, and resilience. I call it an ecosystem because when you work on one area, it affects the others. The foundation of these three pillars is rooted in our daily habits. So we can't help this thing, these three areas, unless we're doing things to help it daily. What we repeat, we reinforce. But I want people to know this is not about a major life overhaul. So that's not what the system is about. But I designed the system to specifically address the three biggest issues I see today. People are disengaged. They're not able to maintain their focus. They're not connected. They're distracted. Life is kind of pulling them in many different ways. We're more connected technologically than ever before, but less connected people wise and one on one. Less meaningful conversations are happening face to face. So, to our bodies, also, I believe there's a lot of disconnection that we don't. Oh, now we have people coming in, so stand by. So, I think we're more disconnected in that way to our own bodies and distracted by negativity, by anger, by comparison, by the stories we tell ourselves that may or may not even be true. And the big one I see and hear more than anything is depletion. So many of you know I use depletion and not burnout because I believe it is depletion. When we talk about autoimmune, we're talking about people that are depleted in mind, body, and spirit. So this is a big one to kind of refill our cups. And it's really hard to show up the way we want to in life when we're depleted. So that's the goal. Now, you're also thinking when I said this is a performance framework, and you're thinking, well, I'm in the wrong place because performance is I'm not an athlete, I'm not on stage, I'm not a musician, but the thing about performance is it's really about the way you show up in the moments that matter the most in your life. So whatever those are, as a mom, as an athlete, sure. As on your job, definitely the tasks you do every day, the roles you play, the responsibilities. So performance is something that we're all doing every single day. So if you're thinking that performance doesn't apply to you, I think it's the contrary because it's whatever we're trying to do that we're trying to show up the best we can for people. Now, again, when we're working on this is not meant to be complicated. We're using what's called the minimum effective dose of those daily habits. So what I mean by that is the lowest hanging fruit with the biggest impact. There's your low hanging fruit. That's legitimate low hanging fruit right there. So low hanging fruit, biggest impact, meaning I might say 4 or 5 habits, but one of them really applies to you, right? So what's the lowest hanging fruit? You say, okay, that's the one I need to work on. Lowest hanging fruit with the biggest impact. And I'm going to start it in the easiest way possible, the smallest way possible. So if I told you 100 sit-ups was great for longevity and you really want to be able to do 100 sit-ups, you're not going to start with 100, right? You're going to start with one. So if we started with one and we built each day, and like James Clear always says in Atomic Habits, if we're 1% better each day, we're doing really good. So this is meant like all you need to do is start it. Start today. That's the good thing. None of these habits are something you have to go out and buy. None of these habits are complicated, but they're things that we kind of overlook because they seem so simple. They couldn't possibly make a profound difference. But over time, they will. So if a client is coming to me and they have issues, the first thing we're looking at is, okay, what are you doing daily? Because we got to know that, right? We can't offset that. So this is meant to be doable. When I'm talking about capacity, so people understand, I hear it all the time. I don't have capacity to do X, Y, or Z. And I'm always like, is it like the whole like new car thing because I'm writing a book on it and because it's in my life? Am I just hearing it all the time now, all of a sudden, because it's there? Because when you buy a new car, you tend to see that model like everywhere you go and you feel like everyone has that car. Hang on a second, I'm letting someone else in. I'm trying. Okay. So when I'm saying capacity, I'm talking about the container that you're the container that you're operating from. Okay. So when we're looking at this as an example, we see three different capacities. Your capacity can change day by day. Also, that is true. When I was diagnosed with autoimmune, I would say my capacity was on all the way on the left. Well, I can tell you I don't do less now than I did before then. I've just increased my capacity. So what does it look like when we have this capacity? We have performance that is the water that goes inside of the bucket. It's not the slide I wanted. Stand by. Tech issues tonight are fun. They are really fun. So in here, here's your water that goes in the bucket. Okay. So we look good there, right? We look good. That's okay. The water's up there. So what happens more often than not is this. The water's overflowing. So what does that look like? How do I know my capacity is not enough and my performance is spilling over? Well, that starts to look like the following things on the left side. And it might be subtle. It may not be dramatic. That's why I'm saying when you get diagnosed with something like autoimmune, this has gone on for a long time. This did not happen overnight. So maybe you're still answering messages. Maybe you're still checking boxes. Maybe you're still getting through the day, but at the root of everything, there is this type of burnout, the depletion that I talked about earlier, fatigue, inconsistency, negativity, lack of focus, physical symptoms, pain. That can be part of the issue. Now, how do we expand our capacity? Because if you're like me, sure, we could all benefit from a life audit. Are we doing things in a day that we don't need to be doing? Yes, you can absolutely have addition by subtraction by saying, what are the habits that I need to maybe lose that aren't serving me? Absolutely, we can do that. But a lot of times, are you going to tell the mom of three who's holding down a job and has to make dinner that she has to do less in the day? So my goal is let's create increase the size of the container so you can start to be able to perform with all those things. So we tend to think backwards. We are completely obsessed with the water in our world and not focused on the bucket. And it's sort of the backwards thinking and the things that society dictates that I'm going to talk about in a little while that we actually have to refute and turn around in the other direction so that we get the benefits. Because what society dictates is if you're not spilling over in that bucket, you're not showing up because you got to do all the things. And if you're not producing output, you're not winning. If you're not doing enough, you're not following through in all these areas, right? So again, it looks different for each person, but I always think athletes are the best capacity builders that there are. So I think they're a fantastic example of this. Yes, I get it. This is all they do. I understand that. But they understand that to perform, they must build capacity. You're looking at the right, you're looking at Tom Brady and you're looking at LeBron James, two of the oldest players to play their sport. Do they have innate talent? Absolutely. That's God-given ability. LeBron James is the most talented human being I think I've ever seen on a basketball court when I saw him in high school. I was like, I've never seen anything like this. And LeBron is now 41 and the oldest player in the NBA. He's got 4 NBA championships. Tom Brady has 7 Super Bowls. He played till he was 45. Why? Because they are also the greatest capacity builders. Tom Brady was not the most talented person. He's a 199th draft pick in the 6th round, right? So wasn't like the LeBron James of college football. Wasn't even in the first 5 rounds. But these guys are the most fantastic capacity builders of all time. So they're building their capacity 90% of the time, and 10% of the time they're performing. So that's pretty cool. And when you think about it, like different sports, like NBA players are playing more often than football players, right? Because football players can only play once a week because it's such a physically demanding sport. So I get this could fluctuate a little bit, but the bottom line is capacity is a big deal. But what do we do? It's the complete opposite. So we do not ever think about the bucket. We think about output. So 1% of the time we're building capacity, and when we do, we feel guilty. 99% of the time we are trying to perform. And so that's backwards. Companies asking for more results without supporting their people, right? Companies, it's always like that in sports media all the time, right? We would always do more with less. It's always do more with less, do more with less. We're really good at this. Let's do more, but let's do more with less. Like they're taking away resources. So this is the thinking across the board that needs to be reversed for success. But we can't just start throwing a bunch of habits to you. We have to rebuild the foundation like you do in the game Jenga. When you build the Jenga cube, you're building from the bottom, right? You put those wood pieces down from the bottom first, right? You don't start at the top of that. It starts at the bottom. So you got to build that foundation. And what happens when you start pulling these things out, right? And the closer you get to the foundation when you're pulling them out, like you're really taking a chance. So it's just like life. You can keep pulling and the tower might stand for a while, but if you pull pieces that are near the foundation, eventually what's going to happen? It's going to collapse. So when we're building a foundation, we are looking at number one. There are three things you need to build the foundation for lasting change. And number one is what's your why? If you think you know your why, I would challenge you to ask again. So a lot of people, when I was a trainer, they would come to me and say, I want to, what's your why? You know, I would always ask, what's your why? I know some trainers ask, what's your goal? But I would ask, what's your why? Well, why are you here? Because I want to lose weight. Well, that's not a why. Because what happens when you lose the weight? Like, that's not really a why. But if you peel back and you ask why, and they say, well, because I've had some unhealthy habits and I haven't been able to show up for my family the way I'd like to. And I really want to show up for my family in the best way possible. Now we're talking about putting our oxygen mask on. Now we're talking about motivation. Now we're talking about something that you can start putting on a refrigerator so that you see it all the time. I've had a lot of clients do that in the past. And then the second part of this, of building that foundation of lasting change, is also asking why. So asking why something's happening. Don't just autopilot through life. Just asking why. If I didn't ask why, I'm not sure how would I have healed how would I have put my autoimmune in remission if I never asked why it happened in the first place? Right? If we don't ask why something's happening, if we don't ask why a doctor's prescribing something, if we don't ask why and we don't know, how can we address root causes? How can we take the onion and peel it back and peel back the layers and understand, well, I'm thinking this thought all the time. Why? Like, why? Where's it come from? Right? Sometimes you got to sit in some stuff to get answers. And I get that's not always easy. The other thing is have a vision, because it's really easy to only see what the eye can see. And I think when, I go back to the autoimmune example, people have felt poorly for so long, they can't see another way. So it's not just seeing what the eye sees, it's just letting a clear vision remind you that a better way is possible. And it can happen by choosing differently. So we had a patient at Dr. Cole's in the autoimmune health reset. She had like 3 autoimmune conditions. She had like something with, it was affecting her throat. It was a connective tissue disorder. So there was movement issue. This poor woman had so much toxic exposure and a lot of trauma, but man, was she motivated to do something about this and just to have a better life. And I remember going over what her why was, and it was really deep. And I remember her, writing it out, putting it on her refrigerator. And the thing about it is, one day I said to her, what's your vision? Pam, what's your vision? What do you see? If I could wave my magic wand, what would be the one thing you were able to do? She said, I love paddleboarding. And I said, do you have a picture of yourself paddleboarding? She said, I do. I said, I want you to put it up right next to your why. So we're about, those of you that know the program, Dr. Cole's, that program's about 4 months. And when you get done with the 4 months, a lot of people will go into our graduate group for support. And I noticed one day in the graduate group, she had posted a picture and it was of her paddleboarding. And I was like, oh, she must be posting this to say this is her vision and this is what she hopes to achieve still. It was a current photo. She had gotten back on a paddleboard. And so your vision can fuel you. And again, like athletes, this is a big thing. So again, like you don't have to like sports. But what I'm trying to say is sports are practice for life. And a lot of the components in there and what these guys do and these females that are Olympians and professional athletes too, what they do, like all of these things go into their performance. So I'm trying to say if they're doing it and they're the people that perform at the highest levels in their sports every single day and their job is contingent on physical performance, we should be looking at them for some of the examples. So that's why I bring up sports a lot. It's not meant to be like you have to like sports to understand this. You just have to understand performance. So, and then the last thing is reject backwards thinking. So I already kind of alluded to this. And this is where I'm saying like this takes work, you guys, because the world is a bit backwards. And I use my story from the MS support group I went to speak at. I tell a longer version of this in my keynote, but I'll tell the short version. I was asked by my neurologist to speak at an MS support group. I was having a lot of success with the Whole30 at that time and diet and lifestyle change and keeping my disease, at bay. And she said, I'd love for you to come and speak to the support group. Now, she doesn't go to the actual support group meetings, but she set me up to do this. And I went to a couple. And the first one I went to, I'm talking in front of the room. And I mean, it's a room full of people who I'm well aware are not well off. Like there are people in wheelchairs, there are people debilitated, there are people, I can see the looks on their faces. They're not happy, right? They're depressed over their condition. And I'm like, I got to be a light for these people. I got to show them there's a way. And I look as I'm talking in the beginning and they're putting food out and they put out pizza, chocolate chip cookies, and soda. And I went, okay, this is completely backwards. I'm going to stand up here and talk about inflammatory foods and what eliminating them and reintroducing things systematically does while they're giving them the exact food, especially with a neurological condition that is inflammatory, and they're giving them inflammatory foods. And I just said, it's all backwards, right? Teachers, they can't drink water because they don't get a break. I remember talking to overnight nurses. They don't have food options. They don't even have time to eat. We are nurses and doctors that are supposed to take care of us. They don't get breaks and they're some of the most stressed people on the planet. And we're not helping to build their capacity. That's backwards. So that's what I'm saying. If we could right the ship in the other direction, this is the real truth of the matter. We're in a Netflix world. I got a remote control in front of me. I can hit one button, Netflix, and a movie comes up. Some of you might be young enough to not know what Blockbuster is, but let me explain the process that watching a movie used to be. You used to get in your car, you used to go to Blockbuster, pick out your title, and God forbid you didn't get there early enough on a Friday because your title might not be there and you might have to wait to get it. You pick out your title, you take it up to the counter, you pay for it, you get back in your car, you drive it home, you put it in the machine. Sometimes the person before you didn't rewind it, so you got to rewind it. Then you rewind it, you watch the movie, maybe once or twice in the 3 days that you have it, you get in your car and you drive it back. There is nothing about health, wellness, performance that is anything like Netflix. It's Blockbuster every single day of the week. So when the whole world is fixated on quick and easy, I feel like there are some things about quick and easy that are the reason why we've made some things harder. Because there is no quick and easy here. It's take a pill. It's not do the work. Even, the athletes will sometimes they don't want to go to the natural route sometimes, right? Because what do they want to do? They want to have the surgery and they want to heal quickly. And the natural route sometimes takes a little longer. So there's nothing about health, well-being, and performance that's anything like Netflix. And here's the thing my good friend Dr. Perry says. The good news is, I just said quick and easy might be the reason why things are harder, but effective things don't have to be complicated. They just need to be consistent. That's the simple truth of the matter, is what can you repeat and what are you repeating? So mindset is what we're going to get into today. So this is the micro area of focus that we're going to get into, because I think mindset can basically undo a lot of good things. If we're not in a good mindset and we're telling ourselves stories, true or not, what you tell your body knows it as truth. So even if it's not true, you're feeding it things, and that's what it knows as its truth, the subconscious. So I just say all the time, mindset can undo a lot of kale, right? All these people can eat all this nutritional food and kale. And if your mindset's off, it can really change things. So let's make it a superpower, because I would say it's one of the biggest needle movers, in my journey. And then you also realize that you have the ability to change these things. And it's based on you daily. You are what you create. You are what you repeat. So yes, you have the ability to create your own reality. So I think this is super important. It may seem small, but it's definitely not. So you're asking yourself, what are the stories you're consistently telling yourself? So mindset reframes. So this is what is on repeat in your head. How do you interpret that reality? Right? Because that's what you're interpreting. And then this might make more sense. It sounds like this. I'm just getting old. It's my genes. It's genetics. I'm stressed. I've tried that before. I'll start when things slow down. I'm not good at that. I put I'm stressed twice, so it must be really bad. I can't stay consistent. It's out of my control. I'm tired. I'm sick. What if I just rattled off answers like that to you on everything, right? That doesn't feel very hopeful. There is no hope in that. It makes me think that this language is completely powerless, like it's inevitable. This is just how it's going to be. I once had someone say to me about my presentation, like, "What? That sounds really good. Like, that sounds interesting, right?" But I said, "You should come to one." He said, "Nah, that stuff just doesn't resonate with me." And I'm like, "Okay, well, don't bother if you're going to come like that." This is someone I know really well. I didn't say this to like just the average Joe on the street, but my point was, if you've convinced yourself it's not going to make an impact, it's not. It's absolutely not. So this is an area where we have to reframe. And I think if you can find three things that are on repeat and reframe them, the three biggest stories that you hear constantly, I think that can make a huge difference. So, I don't have time becomes I can make intentional choices. I can make time for what matters. I'm too scattered because becomes I'm learning to direct my attention, or I am directing my attention. It's like James Clear says in Atomic Habits, you want to be an author, you got to write, right? But as soon as I write a page, I am an author. As soon as I write a page, I'm an author. I write a word, I'm an author. So you have to keep those I ams can be really powerful when they're framed with positive words after them, right? And negative words will have the exact opposite effect. This is my biggest thing. Stop listening to yourself. Start talking to yourself. Because there's a difference. If you're listening to all the reasons why something isn't going to happen, it's not going to happen. So what this I also want to preface, this is not meant to say that these are never going to creep in. Okay? That you're never going to say these things again. It's just your ability to just reframe it. That's the truth of the matter, is that I am not also, I want to be clear that I know that there are people who have deep emotional traumas, and some of these stories being told go back to that. And I understand that that's harder work, and I understand that might take more time, and there might be more of these creeping in. However, it still starts with one time that you can start to do that. It can start to become a habit and you can repeat it. So I don't want to trivialize when someone has these deep emotional traumas, that it's not something that can happen over time, but we got to start somewhere, right? And if we can start by simple reframes, it would be helpful. Number two, choose the lens and reset. The greatest cheat code that there is the ability to reset quickly. So the reframes, right? That's a sort of reset, but I'm talking about sometimes something sucks. There's no doubt about it. Getting diagnosed with an autoimmune disease sucks, right? I'm not saying it's good, but the lens I choose to view things through, because it's E plus P equals O. The event plus your perception equals the outcome. The book on the right is The Energy Bus. This is the book that changed my life. This is the book that was put on my desk by my boss at the Golf Channel back right after I probably met my husband and his family, who are inherently positive people. I am from the Northeast. I don't consider people that I've been around inherently positive people. And I would put myself in that category, just a lot of more negative self-talk, like if someone around you didn't live up to your standards and you didn't live up to your standards, you're an energy vampire. That's what we call it in the book. So the energy vampire. Maybe you are the energy vampire, because when I read the book, I'm like, I'm a damn energy vampire, and I do not want to be an energy vampire, because energy is so valuable, and energy vampires can suck the life out of the room. So as I'm being self-deprecating, no, I'm not talking about someone else, but me saying that out loud is sucking the energy from the room, right? So I'm not like that now. In fact, sometimes I have a hard time seeing that I was that person, because I'm so not that person now, but it takes time. But this book is what triggered all of it. So the fact that I'm a John Gordon certified speaker and able to deliver this framework, which some of you will see in May, because I'm, a special group of people that's going to see the Energy Bus keynote. Like it's amazing how full circle life comes and how God puts these things in front of us, when we need them the most. And I needed that message in that book. And I think the person who does this the best right now is right here, Lindsey Vaughn. Yes, I'm going back to an athlete, but this is a public story that I think you can all relate to. We all saw the accident. It was it was awful. I mean, you have a pit in your stomach that happened. But this woman, in the face of all this, I watched what she did. Super strong human, right? You've seen it. She plays through things. She competes at the highest level, even when the odds aren't with her. Was able in the moment to see the fact that this event was awful. Yes, it was awful. But to also see the fact that had she not torn her ACL prior to the Olympics, had that doctor not been with her, she might have lost her leg. So she saw her perception of that event changed. And that's kind of what happens in the Energy Bus if you read the book, right? It's George has this awful moment where he says he thinks everything in his world is negative, and he got a flat tire and then he had no way to go to work and he took a bus, and he sees this as the most negative thing ever. And then when they try to fix his car, they find out his brakes were bad and he could have gotten into an accident. It was a blessing that his car had a flat tire, but he didn't see it that way. So it's all how we see it. Yes, there are things that are going to happen that suck and we can't control them. We can only control how we respond. And so that's a really important thing. And now look at her. I don't know if you saw the pictures. This is one from a little bit before, but the Met Gala over the weekend. I mean, she went to the Met Gala. So she's inspiring. I think the work she does, and just, again, the ability to state the facts that it sucks and still have a positive mindset about things and life going forward, and not ruling out coming back. So, I mean, I'm not ruling her out. So I think we can learn a little bit, from that. And I think the number 3 is practice gratitude, because gratitude trains your attention. Gratitude it's impossible to feel blessed and stressed at the same time. Try it. I challenge you cannot do it, right? So most of us are highly trained to scan our environments for what's wrong, what's missing, or what's hard. So a lot of times when I got on with patients, like at Dr. Cole's, I was always like, start with your wins. I want to hear your wins. Because what will happen is they would rattle off all these negative things. And then you get to the part of the matter a little bit later and you realize, oh my God, they're doing some really good things, but you got to recognize that, right? You got to recognize and have gratitude for that. Jess Sims, who's a Peloton instructor, always says, I love this quote, you can be a work in progress and a masterpiece at the same time. So I do think it's important to recognize this, because gratitude does interrupt that mental pattern. The one of the best absolute habits you can build is learning to be thankful for the little things. So no matter what's going on, no matter how bad it is, there is always something to be grateful for. So that's why in our workshops, we also start with, tell me something good. And when we do the power of positive leadership, we talk about these leaders of the company don't come into a meeting and start with the negative. Tell me something good. And we don't do this because everything is good. We do it because something is good. So it's vital to understand that gratitude is not an obligation. It's not toxic positivity. It's not denial. It's direction. So if you practice this, it doesn't erase what's hard in your life, but it just keeps hard from being the only thing that you see. So the minimum effective dose, saying I get to versus I have to. What a small shift that is, but boy, is powerful. It's really powerful. I have to go to another major this weekend. I have to travel again. Or can I say, I get to cover the best players in the world. I get to be inside the ropes with the best players in the world. I get to go to Philadelphia to visit my college roommate and one of my good friends, right? So if you can take 3 things and write them down each day. I like doing it morning and evening so that you bookend your day with this. 3 things you're grateful for. It's going to shift and give your mindset a direction for the day. And I would remember this quote about gratitude that I think is one of the best quotes I've ever heard. I believe it was like this Canadian blogger or author that I saw it from, and I saved it from Instagram. It is that no amount of regret changes the past. No amount of anxiety will change the future, but any amount of gratitude will change the present. And I think that's huge. And so I do. That's how I am every day. It's not that everything's great all the time. It's just that I think if you start with this mindset, it really does help. So this is that minimum effective dose. And I do like writing it down. Some people will be like, I want to walk and do it. You can do that, but I would start by writing it down. I would. There's power when you put pen to paper. Now, protect your inputs. Claim the first 15 minutes of your day. So when I'm saying protect your inputs, we need to think about what could distract us, what could distract our focus. Because the truth is, focus is not just built by what we add. It's also sometimes the greatest addition comes by subtraction. That is not what I wanted to do. I don't know what it's doing. Give me 1 second. This thing has a mind of its own. I am not a huge fan of this system here, but we're going to get through it. All right. So if you can start the first 15 minutes of your day with something that has a positive direction, your minimum effective dose would be before the world gets your attention, give it direction. Give your day direction. So don't start by handing your mind over to the world with emails, chaos, or turning on the news. Instead, maybe you can use the first 15 minutes to do something that supports your system. Take a walk, do some breath work, journal, get sunlight, drink your lemon water. Choose nourishment over noise first. Hopefully this works. I'm sorry for the tech issues, you guys. This is an experiment tonight, and it's at times a little bit tricky. So here's the other one. Change your algorithm. We talk about algorithms all the time, right? What you click on, you get more of. Change your algorithm. So that means I tell people minimum effective dose is, what if you think about the last 3 things you clicked on the internet? What are the last 3 social media posts you clicked on? What are the last 3 things you watched on TV? And what were your feelings when you watched them? Because you will see that the news kind of sometimes gets people in a tizzy. The social media posts. And what happens? The more you click on things, the more you're going to see it, because that's the way the algorithms are designed, right? When I go to social media, feel like it's a super positive place because I click on positive things. And I have some friends who I have muted because they're not positive and they're angry. And I can't have that. So that's changing my algorithm, but it's also what I call weeding my garden. Because weeding your garden is really important too. What's a weed? Comparison, notifications, mindless scrolling. Energy vampires are weeds. I was a weed at one point. So if an input is noisy or draining you, you have my full permission to take your agency back, unfollow it, delete it, hide it, mute it, whatever technical term you want to use. And just remember that scrolling is not connection. So that's what I was saying earlier. We're connected electronically, but profoundly disconnected from ourselves, each other, and true focus. So I really think that protecting your inputs can help you reconnect to what's important. So that's the capacity ecosystem, the area of focus, right? But when you look at this, you will realize that just by doing that, what else did you work on? Your resilience and your energy, because thoughts and mental gymnastics can be draining too. So you see what I'm saying of why it's an ecosystem? So you're really getting a good picture of that. And then, this quote from Aristotle's work, which was summed up by historian Will Durant, we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence then is a habit, which means we can't do it one time. It takes more than that. We can't do it once. It's got to be more than once. It's got to be consistent. And then if you want to see how all of this works and why I don't talk about health, health is in there. The reason why I don't bring up health, everything we talked about today will absolutely help your health. The reason I don't bring up health until later in the game is because health is very personal. There is a lot of guilt, shame, restriction, a lot of negativity around health. And a lot of people, honestly, they don't want to be told what to do for their health. But if I can tell you how to optimize your performance, people resonate with that better sometimes. So if you're a person that resonates with health and well-being, great. This applies to you. If you're a person that maybe doesn't feel right about how that's gone in the past, work on your capacity because you're still going to work on your health. So you can see that daily habits are down at the foundation. And then think about your biggest takeaway from this. So I ask this when I do a big keynote, but I also ask it when I do the small ones. What is your biggest takeaway from this? And we can discuss this in a minute as soon as I finish this. What habit can you commit to? What will you start today? So I think that sometimes when I'm talking about these things to get people to action, I can help by saying, okay, um, Julie might say to me, well, the sunlight in the morning is resonating with me. And I'll say, great, great. Do you think you can commit to that? Are you committed to doing that? Committed means it's on the calendar. Committed means it's going to happen. Are you committed to it? She'll say, yeah. Okay, when are you going to start? Oh, I'm going to start tomorrow morning. Okay. What time are you going to get up? Like you start to like get them to really commit to it. Put it on your calendar. Put a notification on there so that when you wake up in the morning, you remember, I'm going to go out and get my 15 minutes of sunlight. So we think the journey looks like this. So even though we're going over all this, but what it actually looks like is that second line down there. And I mean, I go through that too. It's not like I have it all figured out. I don't come into these things and pretend like I have all the answers. I am working through that bottom looking line too. There's always going to be humps and bumps. But how do you recover? What's your resilience like? How quickly can you get back on the path you were on? How consistent can you be with what you do daily? There could be something that happens that's out of my control, right? And I'm not going to sweat over the things I can't control. I'm going to focus on the things that I can control. So everything we do, our thoughts, our habits, the foods we eat, our actions are either decreasing or increasing our capacity. Everything. So you can definitely do that audit. It's part of the workshop that we do. What are the things that are increasing your capacity that you're doing? What are the things that are draining it? If you're doing more that increases it than draining it, you're in a good shape, right? And so here's the summary and how it looks. You have a say in how this goes. It's not inevitable. Build your foundation, choose your habits, start with the minimum effective dose, smallest way possible, and repeat. That increases your health and your capacity to perform. So it's that simple. So many people will come into these and they nod their head. And I talk about this all the time. If I offered you $500 to get sunlight tomorrow morning, you would do it. If I told you ate one Oreo and you would get cancer the next day, you wouldn't eat it. Why? Because the reward is immediate and the consequences are immediate. But that's not how health and performance works. Most rewards are delayed, most consequences are delayed, and because they don't feel urgent today, we convince ourselves they're not important. And that's the trap. We wait for a diagnosis, a life-changing health event, or for the bucket to continue to spill over. But I don't want you to do that. Life is cumulative. So what hurts you adds up, and what helps you adds up. So don't postpone these things. You don't have to look beyond what you do daily to understand the direction your life is going. Is it going in the direction you want? Maybe you're a person who the direction is good, right? It's going the way you want. I guarantee you can find something to optimize, right? So there's always something we can kind of optimize a little more. Every habit, nourishing or depleting you. Build those habits as if your future depends on them, because it does. So you don't need to fix everything today, just one repeated choice. So we're going to do what's called mastering the art of showing up. One different choice changes the direction. Start there, make a commitment. Commitments will take you places literally that your dreams or that your goals can only dream of. So that's what it's important, is the commitment. And then stay connected. So if you're not a member already of my free community, the reason why I created the free community is because when you leave here and you put to the side everything we talked about, you have a place to stay connected, to go back to that message, to go back to gravitating toward the person you want to be and the messages that you want to hear. This group is meant to be positive. Okay. It's meant to be a low-hanging fruit and an easy lift and a place that you can just show up. My podcast, that's free. You can listen to that anytime you want. So you can also, you can follow me on social media. You can go to my YouTube page. Like, there's a lot of ways to stay in the conversation. So my thing is, just don't let this be the end of it. And then there is a subset of people who want more. And this is the where I do the subscriber group. And these are the people that are next level. Like they don't just want the message, they're living the message like every day. And that's what they're focused on. They want more information. They want more referral rewards. They want more discounts. They want to buy some biohacks. They want coaching discounts. They're people. So that's what this group is. And it's 50% off for people to join this group throughout the whole year. And it's founding 50. That's the code for that. So if someone wanted to do that, it's 50% off if you do that code. The other thing is I live by referrals. And if you are a member of a community, of an organization, of a company, a school, you know, a team, I would love to speak to them of my messages, or either that or the John Gordon messages, which are great. I've got some people signing up for some of those. And even though I'm virtual, I can do virtual. I do prefer in person. Obviously, I love the in-person connection, but I have done virtual um, presentations. And I would invite all of you that are on this call tonight to be on the John Gordon special presentation that's in that's in later this month, because that's a $7,000 keynote speech I'm going to give for free. I cannot make a recording of it. So that's the only caveat. You have to do it live. But that will come out. And so if you email me, I will send you a link to register, and you will get a special Zoom link for that one. That will not be a public Zoom link because it's proprietary information and I can't have people I don't know on there looking at it. So that's another way to stay connected. Who's got questions, topics? Anybody have anything they want to discuss about any of this? Anybody have something that came to mind? Look, I know some of this is personal, so not always do we really always want to share what the stories are that we have on repeat, but has anyone ever seen success with this? Does anyone have one takeaway from this? Anything that resonates? Besides, Christy has tech issues with her setup. Anything? It was that bad, huh? No one has any takeaway.
That was good, Christy.
You're on mute.
No, I took it off.
Oh,
What
okay.
are the takeaways, though? What did you get out of it, Leroy? Is there something that maybe resonated?
Um, yeah, I think we are what we repeat. It's the little things that um that we take for granted. I mean, I just ran a half marathon, and it's the first time I ever really trained for one.
Yeah,
Kind of trained. I followed a training, and I did it consistently for like 8 or 9 weeks, and I had my best time
yep,
because I, did something consistently week over week.
yep.
So it wasn't like a daily thing, but it was like a weekly thing. So I had a certain thing I do, So I think uh, yeah, we are what we repeat. So I kind of knew that, but when you
Right.
said it, that's kind of what clicked in my brain.
But
So
it's interesting that with sports, it comes to mind, and we know we have to do it if we're participating in a sport. But like when it comes to life, we don't seem to think about it at all. Like that's the interesting thing to me, which is again why I use athletes. Yes, I've been around athletes my whole life, so I've seen what they do. And I have a lot of respect for what they do because it's hard work. It's hard work. But if you don't, like if you try to participate in a marathon and you don't do that, it's not going to go well, right? Whereas in our lives, with what we're talking about, we can skirt by for a while, right? When do people have these life-changing moments? It's usually when they have a diagnosis or something goes really awry, where they can't do what they wanted to do because now they're incapacitated, to use capacity in another version, right? They're incapacitated. They've had something taken away from them, something that they really wanted, but they really were putting it to the back of their mind. But you can't do that when you're playing a sport unless you play pickleball, because the pickleballers do not build capacity. I'm going to tell you that. My dad's always like, the pickleballers in the community are always hurt. And I go, because that's all they do. They don't do anything to enable their body to be able to play pickleball backwards, right? You see what I'm saying? It's
yeah,
backwards. They want to play pickleball. Pickleball's wonderful. But what are they doing to enable themselves to be able to play pickleball? Nothing. And then they get hurt. And then they're like, oh, I don't know why I'm hurt. I used to say that about runners. Runners hate me because as a trainer, I was like, man, I wouldn't have business if it wasn't for runners. They've been running on imbalances their whole entire life and they get injured, but they don't do a lot to enable themselves to run properly. Our gaits are all different. Like, do you see what I'm saying? So until it comes down to a time where we cannot do what we want to do, like if an athlete didn't do this, and there are some that are better at it than others, right? When you can combine capacity building with talent, you're talking about the best of the best. And that's why I use the examples that I did, right? So if an athlete doesn't do this, that's their job. It's not going to go well because it's a physical performance where you actually physically have to give your body energy. You have to maintain your focus while you're playing. And gosh darn it, you have to have resilience if you're playing a sport. Like it's not optional, whereas we can kind of skirt by day to day. We can get by on 2 hours of sleep and show up for work and not have a good night's sleep and maybe not eat for a little bit. Are we going to be at our best? No. But can we like kind of skirt our way through? Yeah. Can we kind of ignore little signals for a while? Yeah. So that's always my thing is what takes a person to action, which is why I love the workshops because we're all talking about this here. But when you get in the workshop and you have to do these exercises, right? Most people, you're not raising your hand to participate, but in the workshops, you have to. And you're doing it with the other people at your table and you're doing it together. So you're going to connect, right? So we're going to check off that box. You're going to connect, you're going to communicate, you're going to learn, and you're going to put pen to paper, and it's magic. So even though you might not want to participate right now, that's why I'm saying people might not want to participate, but the transformation will happen. We say principles inform, practices transform, right? So that's where you physically get this. I will send, if you want to, anyone can email me for the Energy Bus link that's live on this call. You can also email me. Some of you have it, some of you might not. I give you a mini focus workbook that has some of the exercises we talked about tonight and some of the other ones that I use for when I go into these workshops. I can't give you the whole thing because it is proprietary, but I can give you a few things. Writing your why, writing that down. You think you have your why? Ask why again. How deep can you go? How many layers can you peel back? What's your vision? What are the things you see for yourself? What do you want your vision to be, right? Like I see myself, my vision is always like being active, like still being able to do this, being able, hopefully one day to train people to deliver the material that I'm delivering in my capacity ecosystem. I envision the book, right? I don't have children. And that's like a sad story of like, I didn't know what was happening to me when I had infertility. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know all the stuff I know now. Now I know. Now I see what happened, right? So these were like it wasn't a little thing, but it was something that was happening that I didn't know why. I didn't just blow through stop signs on purpose when it led up to my diagnosis. I didn't understand. So that's why I think conversations like this are important because if we can create the awareness that this is off and I can correct it, and sometimes it's as simple as choosing differently, that's a big, big deal. So I do think that the more workshops people do, and like sometimes companies too, like they're long days because they're 3.5 to 4 hours, but we do make them pretty fun. It's really difficult with high school kids to we do them in small chunks because high school kids, it's really tough to keep their attention for 4 hours. Um, so that's a pot. Does everyone on here think they would want to go to the Energy Bus presentation?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
would.
think
Yep.
you'll enjoy it.
Yes.
Again, if you ever choose to read any of these books, John writes really simple, and John's like let's see, the Energy Bus and Difficult Conversations Don't Have to Be Difficult. Those are written like a fable. And so I find it, maybe some people don't like that, but like I find it easier to digest because it's in a story.
Don't have to.
So it just depends. Now, not every one of his books is written like that. Power of Positive Leadership, Power of Positive Team, they're not written like that. But the other ones, a lot of them are. Seven Commitments of a Great Team is written like a fable. It's a pretty cool story. So I think a lot of these messages are important. And I think that mindset, the reason why we dug into this one first this month was because I think that this one needs the most work for most people. I think that it's something we all have to work at. And I think focus is something that's extremely difficult. A lot of times in the other activities that we'll do with focus, we're talking about actually how you manage your time and attention in that, like, instead of mindset, it's more like, okay, I have this task I need to do today, and I'm setting a timer for the next hour, and I'm going to work on that task for the next hour. I'm not going to watch TV. I'm not going to get up and do the dishes. So, Mike Tirico, who is, I know very well, who is the host of the Olympics, he does the Super Bowl, he does NBA basketball games. And Mike will do 3 or 4 events really close together that are big. And I'm like, Mike, how do you prepare for those? Because like those are like really important events and they're very close together. You know how he does it? Time tasks, sets a timer. And he says if something pops into his mind that's about one of the other things he's doing, he doesn't fight it. He writes it down, but then he goes back to doing what he's doing. And then the other thing that's in the workbook that I can send you all is what's called the Eisenhower matrix. So the Eisenhower matrix helps you look at your tasks that you're doing in a day to put into important, need to do it today, important, but it can be pushed off a little, to not important, I can delegate it, to not important, I don't need to be doing this at all. And so sometimes when someone's like, I don't have time for X, Y, or Z, that can be a really helpful exercise because I bet I can find time. Like, I bet I can find 15 minutes in your day that you can give back that maybe you spent doing something else, right? And that 15 minutes can go to sunlight in the morning or 15 minutes, an extra 15-minute walk, So there's ways to do this. Someone also said to me the other day that I am surprised that there's not more people like at the presentations and the webinars and all that. Well, I mean, I think there are more people watching it, right? Because I can see who watches the replays. There are people watching the replays, so I'm not going to say that people aren't, but I can tell you that we don't even stop to think about, is focus an issue for me? Like, we don't. We kind of go. So that's, I don't care if I'm talking to one person or 1,000, right? If I help one person today, that's a really good day. So to me, the message will catch on. It will grow as I do more of these, but it's never going to discourage me from trying to help people because I still think that there are people that need to hear these messages. Um, we just kind of go through days mindlessly. Does anyone else have a takeaway or anything they would like to share? Anything that resonated?
My thing, what I noticed about myself, and I'll be honest, I tend to focus on the negativity of, I'm just going to use my sister-in-law that's coming in.
Mm,
I focus on and not, I'm not a negative person, but it's like, instead of focusing on the negative, like find, like you said, find the positives in here. Cause you know what? Life's too short. This is all we have. Like with my family,
yep,
this is all I have left. But yeah, I'm a little perturbed, but it's like, even like the world's negative as it is, but try to find I'm speaking for myself, try to find the good in,
yep,
people versus, and that's something I don't know. I think maybe even when I was growing up, that's how
yeah,
my parents, not all the time, but more so maybe my father. But it's just like,
yeah.
you know,
I
so I
had,
kind of like just like realizing, yeah, I do. Like if I sit back and think like
yep.
I do focus more on the negative of, you know, different people than versus finding something positive about them.
Well, can you reframe it? You know what I mean? Like that's the
Sure.
thing. It's like it may happen, right? And we're not trying to deny everything that's going to happen. I had something negative happen yesterday. It was negative. It's something with work, you know? And I was like, I can't believe that we're, you know, unprepared for something that's coming up.
Right.
But then my focus right away turned to, okay, what do I need to do to pull this off now? So I can just reset pretty quickly.
Right.
I might say it once. So John also has a book called The No Complaining Rule. And the no complaining rule, it doesn't mean you can never say or complain anything like I did. I can say it, but I have to have a solution. So that's the rule. And we had that rule at work at the Golf Channel. You can't complain unless you have a solution. So if you have a way to fix it, it's okay to say there's something awry. And leaders, being able to do that is important too, right? Because they're setting an example. They're setting an example for the entire organization that they're involved with. You need the leader to be, it's okay to say that this could go better, right? But then we're saying, okay, when you get in the meeting, start with something good. Don't start with the negative thing, right? If you lead from a place of love, it gives you the right to also be more critical. If you're
Right.
leading from a place of love and you're assuming the positivity of it too, in that it's a growth opportunity. So the other thing I would say is that forgiveness, which I talk about in my big keynote, forgiveness is a superpower. Forgive quickly. John's about to have a new book come out, and it's called The Power of Positive Habits. I have it. I have an advanced copy, but I have not been able to look at it yet. I hope to read it when I get on the airplane on Saturday. And they're all so 93 positive habits. I'm pretty sure he's got some of the ones we've talked about. I talk about forgiveness in the big keynote speech. So is just anger sits in you. Anger dwells in the liver. The liver's got a lot of tasks to do, over 200 a day. You do not need anger, right? So one of the things that I teach, and I teach this to the athletes sometimes too that I talk to, is that, and Susan, you already know this too, but this clenching right here of your fingers together is like when something's making you so angry and you feel that vibration and that pressure, that isn't good, right? And that starts to be in your shoulders and your body. Can you do this and then go and release it?
Mhm.
That noise that I made, that sigh that came from like my throat and here, that's like a well-known breathing technique that helps you release things and release anxiety. And John had this situation where he tells this story, and I'm gonna tell you, he told it at our training, at our day of development, and I had tears in my eyes because he's such a great speaker. So when he does tell a story, I'm just like captivated by it. And he said he did not have a good life with his real dad. And so his real dad did not treat him well. And John couldn't write for the longest time. He was having all kinds of issues. And John actually went back to where his real father lives and he forgave him.
Oh,
Not for John, not for his father, for John. And so that he's not in his life. It didn't change what he did was awful. So forgiveness is not about necessarily
mhm.
even the other person. It's about yourself. It's about letting it go, not harboring it, not holding it, not keeping the anger inside you, because that's only going to hurt you.
Mhm.
And so just, again, it's not like you're not going to feel these things, but let it go. Let it
Right.
go. I have a friend who I literally will tell you, it's so ironic that this actually worked. I have a friend who I know has a huge issue with forgiveness, and she had her gallbladder out recently, and I'm like, not her gallbladder, it's her liver because she's angry. Like, and so she, obviously she's got a liver now, and I'm like, you got to take care of your liver. And I would post things about forgiveness on purpose so she would see them. And there was one I posted one day and she responded to it. She's like, I need to get better at that. And so she did see it. So, like I say, I just keep saying things and you never know who's listening or when it's going to resonate. And that's why, again, I believe in the ripple effect. And I'm not saying all of you should go door to door, right? Not all of you should go door to door and say, oh, Chrissy's got this really interesting capacity ecosystem. But when you hear someone say this stuff, like sometimes if it's someone in your family who's saying something that annoys you, if you lead from love and you say it in a certain way, sometimes it could be constructive.
Right.
We just don't always say it we don't always lead with love. We lead with the other side of the coin. So I do think forgiveness could very easily have been included in today's. It is in the big speech, but it is a superpower. I just didn't feel like I could fit five things, or it would have been the fifth thing. Absolutely. It would have been the fifth thing. Connection would have been, I tried to interweave connection in here because I do think it's important. I feel better when I connect with people one-on-one. I go to the coffee shop every day, and part of it is connecting with people, saying hello to the person who makes my coffee, who makes it for me before I get in. Um, Saying hello to them every morning. They ask me how I am. They ask me how Pilates class was. I ask them how they're doing. What time did they get there? When did their shift start? I've overheard amazing conversations in the coffee shops too. So like, why am I doing that? It's because I need to spend $7 every day. Probably an expensive habit, but at the price, it's a little small price to pay to have some connection when you work from your home and have to look at Zoom screens all day. So, because I think value connection is valuable. There's people in the coffee shop who I've gotten their numbers a referral from. There's people in the coffee shop who have joined my community. There's a guy at the farmer's market that read John Gordon's book and had a life-changing, and he read The Energy Bus and had this life-changing change when he had health problems. So like that connection is so valuable. So I don't want people to forget the value of that. So, but those are in the larger speech. Any more questions? All right. I will see you all later. Let me know if you want the workbook, a
I
copy
do.
of the workbook, or the link to the Energy Bus to register, and I will give you the link. People that are in my paid community are allowed to bring up to 5 people, but they must register. They must register to get that Zoom link. The Zoom link cannot be passed without someone registering, because I have to know who's going for the Energy Bus, because it is proprietary information. Yes, I will do that, Morgan. I will send that to you.
Yeah, I would like that.
You will get that. And let me know if anyone else wants it.
I do.
On this call allows you a privilege with that. And if you're in my paid community, you're already going to be invited. But just know, if you're inviting your 5 guests, you need to make sure they register, just because of the proprietary info. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Thanks for coming. If you have any questions, let me know.
Thanks,
Okay,
Christy.
thanks, Christy.
Thank
No
you,
problem.
Christy.
See you soon. Take care.